Hi, Frank Thacker here, and welcome to the Daily Peacemaker. Um, we've been talking about the evolution of consciousness and living nonviolently, and how they are very interrelated. The more nonviolently you live, the more you evolve, and the more you evolve, the easier it is to live nonviolently. And they're both moving towards this place of the oneness. As this is the place where we really connect and realize that we are all interrelated. All creation is interrelated, and so as you move up the ladder of evolution and living nonviolently, um, you begin to um, not only realize the oneness, but to actually it becomes a part of your everyday living. So, given that context, we take a little look at one of the principles of Kingian nonviolence that we haven't touched upon, and um, it's the ability to accept suffering without the need to retaliate for the sake of the cause to achieve the goal. So, first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, what did they say?" So, it's accepting sufferings without retaliation for the sake of the cause to achieve the goal. So let me break that down. A really good example is the notion of taking one for the team. Um, so you're playing hockey, and the goal is to win the game. And the way to do it, it says that for the sake of the cause, but it's cause, in my opinion, is not a good word in there. It's for the method by which you do it. So if you want to win a hockey game, the way to do it is to play good hockey. And so down here on the other end, if someone um, gives you a dirty hit and you want to retaliate, it's better if you can to hold back, and hopefully they'll get a penalty. So, yeah, you've suffered some physical uh, hurt, and you want to retaliate, but you don't because you want to play hockey to win the game. You want to play good hockey. So, ideally, in that case, because you didn't retaliate, they'll get a penalty, they'll be a person short, and that will help you maybe win the game. Um, Another good example is from the civil rights movement. So, the goal, as I understood it, is racial equality, and the means or the sake, the cause was nonviolence. And so when people um, would attack both physically and emotionally and psychologically those people that are working for the goal, those people, when they are attacked, chose to not respond in retaliation so that they could practice the nonviolence to reach the goal. And a couple of points. It doesn't mean you don't feel like retaliation or getting revenge is maybe a better word. But because you have a higher goal, you refrain from doing that. So in some sense, it's a difficult concept to get a hold of, but in another view, and is it's really not that difficult when you really start to think about it. Um, Another example, maybe from everyday life, is say you're at a neighborhood party and you go by a room and you hear them mention your name. So you go, oh. So you stop and you listen and you hear one of the neighbors really bad mouthing you. And not only that, they're talking about a real private matter that you had told them about. So obviously, you're going to feel some hurt, some emotional pain, and you're probably going to want to go in there and knock the guy's drink out of his hands or confront him and say, "You no good so and so. I told you, I asked you not to tell anybody." But you're And goal is to create a culture of peace. That's what the Daily Peacemaker is about. And the method is nonviolence. So you kind of have that feeling of wanting some revenge, you want to retaliate, but you put that aside, you let it go because you realize that living nonviolently is the way to achieve the goal of a culture of peace. I would point out that it doesn't mean that you don't do anything about what happened where you felt that hurt. You just don't do something violently. So, for example, you might want to talk to that person later or the next time you see them rather than just sort of be passive, because this whole notion of nonviolence is not a passive way of dealing with conflict. So that's the principle. Let me say it again: to be willing to suffer without retaliation for the sake of the cause to achieve the goal. So, in our everyday living at the Daily Peacemaker, what we try to teach is the way of nonviolence, because that's the foundation, in our opinion, for creating this culture of peace. So, when something happens to us that hurts us, either physically or emotionally, and we feel the desire for revenge, retaliation, we let that go because we realize that living nonviolently is the way to achieve a culture of peace. And again, I want to point out, just because we don't react in a violent way with revenge or retaliation does not mean we don't address what happened. And given the context of what it was, we would address it in different ways. Take a really common example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your immediate reaction is one of violence often, where you curse them out or you throw them the finger or something. And even though that may seem like a very small thing, there's a whole energy exchange that goes on in these things. So if you get cut off in traffic and you have this surge of real anger, or son of a, if you can let that, if you can control that and not do that, and maybe take a different perspective. Maybe they just got a call that their wife had been rushed to the hospital, for example, so they're in quite a hurry. So I'm gonna I think um, it's a tough principle to get a hold of, but again, to be willing to suffer without retaliation. That the retaliation is revenge, is maybe a better word. And the reason to accept that suffering in a nonviolent way is because nonviolence is the way to create a culture of peace. And so maybe what you might want to do is, during the next few days, just play with that um, principle of something happening to you where you feel pain, discomfort. It doesn't have to be something grand where you're getting thrown in jail, but something that you feel a little discomfort or pain, or that you got castigated, or something like that. So you feel that someone did something to you or said something to you or about you, or um, and you feel the surge of wanting to get back at them for doing that. To be able to let it go and respond in a nonviolent way, because that's the way we build a culture of peace. So maybe we'll explore that a little more, because there's also a piece of avoiding internal violence against that person. So they cut you off in traffic, and you may not have an immediate reaction of something, blasting them or yelling at them. But you go home and you tell your friend or partner, what a jerk this was. That's still um, a, uh, a violent reaction. But we'll get into that. It's a little nuanced, so I can get into that a little bit more next time with another principle that touches on that. So, all right, to be willing to suffer without retaliation for the sake of the cause to achieve the goal. So, look at your day the next few days and see, can you do that? Can you have accept someone inflicting pain on you emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, physically, without actually retaliating and seeking revenge? Doesn't mean you don't feel like doing that. The thing is to not allow yourself to actually do something with the underpinning that the reason you're doing this is because you want to build a culture of peace, which is the goal, and the way to do that is through nonviolence. So I'll end with that, and thank you for listening as always. Always good to be with you, and see you next time. And responses, emails, we're always open to insights, questions, those types of things. So take care. Peace.